Woody Wommack and Mike Farrell back for another episode of our podcast. Mike, we talked, I guess, yesterday. People will have seen our video talking about Jeremy Pruitt getting fired. Phillip Fulmer also out as AD. Now, VolQuest is reporting that they're going to hire an AD before they hire a coach. So we are in for the long haul here. Uh, like I said, we kind of talked about thinking about why Pruitt's out, but you want to talk about the glory days that don't exist of
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Tennessee football, and they
yeah,
were so good. So let's hear it. I had to hear
yeah.
most of it already, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's embarrassing to me, and I'm not a Vols fan. I'm not a fan of any program, but I think it's disgusting what has happened to this program. And I grew up. I'm older than you, so I grew up kind of on Tennessee being a really good program. When I first got into this business, 11-1, 10-2, 11-2, 13-0 national championship. Those were the norms. And when I started calling recruits about Tennessee visits, they raved about it and loved it, loved the atmosphere, loved the coaches. And Tennessee was not really picking and choosing, but as close as you could be without a great home state. Um, and then Fulmer has a couple bad years. They punt him. And ever since then, it's been just an embarrassment. So I feel bad for the fans. I feel bad for Smokey, the dog. I feel bad for the checkerboard end zone, which can't speak, but I feel that its feelings are hurt. And I just don't know how a program like this gets run into the water. This reminds me of The Office, where Michael Scott listens to the GPS and just drives into the lake. That's what Tennessee's done with their football program.
So, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, say what you want about Vol Twitter and whatever. Tennessee they have a really good fan base. They can fill up any venue. They travel to any bowl game. I mean, what you're saying is true. The problem is, and there was a brief period, I guess you could say, during the early Butch Jones era, and even during the Kiffin time, briefly, where the kids got that feeling again. Like, I mean, if you go back and look at the Butch Jones class that brought in, Derek Barnett, Josh Malone, Jalen Hurd, there was a ton of NFL players in that first few years. Now, he got a little high on the hog, burned some bridges with a lot of important people, and then their recruiting dropped off a cliff. Whenever coaches start to get in this mode that they think they're the smartest people ever and they don't need to take highly ranked players or whatever, like that's when you run into trouble. And if you remember, they had their director of player personnel go into the alumni meeting saying, we'll trust our evaluations. And you remember Niedermeyer, who's at the center of this total disaster on signing day a couple years ago. Remember when he went on Twitter and said, if this guy's a 3-star, I know whatever, guess what? You're fired uh, because you went and spent a bunch of money trying to get kids that weren't good enough to play. So there was a time, it's not that far in the rearview mirror, where a good coach had excitement and brought in a ton of good players there. Now, I think their classes are overrated every year. And I tell you that on the rankings calls. And I think it's tough because you have that name brand, but they just don't. There's not a track record of success other than the Butch Jones 9-win seasons where Josh Dobbs covered up a lot of mistakes, I think.
Yeah, and Kiffin was, I mean, the 1 year with Bryce Brown and his 1 year recruiting was amazing. It was fun. It was exciting. He was, it was challenging Urban Meyer um, but then he took off for USC, which was his dream job, and left in the middle of the night. And since then, it's been, pretty much a disaster. And Pruitt's the same way as Butch. Butch started off in state the right way. Pruitt started off in state the wrong way.
Right.
And, so it's opposite. Like Butch started off and then he burned bridges and then fell off a cliff. Pruitt burned bridges right away and then built some back up. But the record on the field was just atrocious. And then you throw in NCAA investigations and all that stuff, you're gone. And I don't know, man. There's like 5 programs that I want to be good again as a child of the 80s and forming my my true college football passion in the 90s. And Tennessee's one of them. And I just think with the facilities and the fans, and listen, the fans aren't nice to us. I mean, they're just, they're very rabid fan base, but they're just, they're super not nice people. probably at home, not to us though, but it's such a passion for this program. And Knoxville is their pro town. That's it. I mean, you go in there and it's everything Tennessee, and there's so much passion for it that, they should be a successful program. And Nebraska's up there, and Michigan's up there, and Miami's up there. And again, as you mentioned, I get caught in snippets of time where I remember how great a program was, and I kind of want that back. And I think it should be easy. And I think this one should be easy. And somebody's going to come in and fix it eventually. But the buffoons that are running this show, ever since firing Fulmer, Mike Hamilton and beyond, just have screwed this thing up so bad that 2007, they were 10-4, and they tied for first in the East. It's 2020. No, it's 2021 now.
That's what I'm saying. No recruit remembers them being good.
None, not one. And I guess to me, it feels like that's 3 years ago, but it's not. It's so far removed. But to continue to screw up on a public level, it's almost hard to do consistently. Once in a while, you feel you trip and fall face first into a good candidate and have some success, but it's just not happening. So something big needs to change there. Now, obviously, Fulmer's not going to be part of the hiring process, which is fine because I don't think he's qualified for it. But distancing yourself from him, you're blowing the whole thing up, and maybe that's what's needed. I just don't think I would distance myself from Fulmer.
I mean, think about it, dude. That Fulmer didn't want to be an AD. He wanted to be a pseudo football coach. He was out there coaching linemen. They had a violation because he was out on the field being an extra coach. It's like, you can't. That's not your job, man. It's just
he coached there for 17 years and had 2 losing seasons, and they got rid of him.
Well, listen, I don't argue with you that they shouldn't have fired him, but like you said, that was 13 years ago now.
You can blame Wyoming.
Because did they lose to Wyoming?
Yeah, Wyoming was like a 26-point underdog 150 years ago. He was kind of, stepping down before that game, but that was kind of like the explanation point on the end of the Fulmer era. And it was an embarrassing loss for sure. But I think if they could look into the future and see what came next, they would probably have kept him and maybe made a better transition. He wouldn't be coaching now, but they could have waited a little bit, made a better transition. I would say, 2015, 2014.
Well,
but careful what you wish for is what we talked about.
Right. This is a top-down issue. This is beyond the athletic director. It's kind of like a bad NFL team. It starts with the owner, and they don't have a clear vision from the president to the AD. They haven't had any stability there, and it's just kind of, manifesting everywhere else. Now their basketball program has been on the rise, and they've done a great job. So it's not total dysfunction, but it's like, geez, man, this is just, if you're a Tennessee fan, you've just got to feel like a Jets fan or something, I'm trying to think of another miserable franchise, that's Sacramento Kings or something. You really,
Sacramento?
Yeah. I mean, you just got.
That's probably when people ask about the Vols too, but it's also become the place where good players go to become mediocre. Like when I watch the Saints and I watched Alvin Kamara and how he's used with like a real coach in a real offense, and then I think back to Jalen Hurd being the guy who was getting the carries and Kamara wasn't getting as much touches as he should have, and it just you're baffled by it. It's just shocking. And that's one example. Josh Malone, Derek Barnett had a great career, but name another guy who was highly ranked at Tennessee. Trey Smith has been a disappointment.
I mean, basically the way it's been at Tennessee, any of the players who were good right away, like Barnett. They were good right away. He didn't I mean, you could say he had a great career, but it's not like he went from, you know, good to, you know, the best player in the nation or whatever. He got out of there and he's had a decent NFL career, won a Super Bowl. Kamara, like you mentioned, was like a bit player. And that's the other problem. You have Alvin Kamara as an alum. You should be begging him to come stand on the sidelines, wear Tennessee stuff after. I mean, he's like got so much cachet with current players and recruits. Do you ever hear him talk about being a Vol or anything? Like
No.
never.
I don't think he was happy there. I mean, because of the way he was used. And,
Right. But
you know, it
this,
reminds me a little bit of the way CJ Spiller was used at Clemson. It shook my head. I used to watch games and there would be close games with Tommy Bowden against average football teams because Spiller got 12 touches. And I'm like, I'm smarter than this. I have to be smarter than this. And I have to be smarter than these guys that felt that Jalen Hurd was the solution and Kamara should get, less touches. Then I would have given the ball 30 times. Not handoffs, but get him touches. And it just never happened. And it's just another example of how horrible things have become. So how about this idea, Woody? Ready?
yep.
Let's take all the delusional football programs and put them in one conference. But then someone has to win.
Okay, so who? So the delusional
All
conference.
delusion
I mean,
conference.
Nebraska, Tennessee. I don't think Nebraska fans are that delusional anymore. By the way, because I think they've accepted their fate a little bit.
I think that, well, it's been about the same as Tennessee. I mean, the late 90s were the same. So in 10 years, I think the delusion will wear off because people will start to die off.
Right, but they're not ready to fire Frost yet. If the Tennessee would be ready to fire, Tennessee fans would have already had Frost fired. I think.
Maybe, but let's put Nebraska in there. Let's put Tennessee in there. Let's put Michigan in there.
Miami,
Miami for sure.
Texas.
Let's put Texas in there. And they shouldn't be delusional. They are because they have so many advantages, but it's still been embarrassing that they can't find a coach and can't win. Who else should be in there?
Well, I don't know. I was trying to think of a,
Penn State? Should Penn State be in there?
put them in there, sure. They were close a couple years ago. They almost made the playoff. I was going to say Washington. I was going to say Washington, but they made the playoff once in the last.
Yeah, and they don't really have they have a strong fan base, but you don't hear.
But they were a national champion. Didn't they win multiple national championships in the 90s? So.
Yeah, but then you'd have to throw Georgia Tech and Colorado in there. I mean, because they each won part of one. But I think our division is nice if we add one more team and then somebody wins. I'm just trying to think of who that team could be. Well, you can throw Florida State in there now if you want, because they're so bad that there's a delusion that they're going to be back to, winning a national championship and all that stuff. And they are so far from that. It's really sickening. So you could throw them in there.
Yeah, I'll put them in there. So I would like Texas or Miami to probably win that.
I think Texas. I'm starting to believe all the hype about Sark. And I do this. I did it with Tom Herman. But I'm falling into the Sark zone.
All right. So I guess that's enough Vols talk for one day as we're going to be.
There is. I mean, can we talk about Guarantano and how he was the poster child for the blame of all this?
Yeah, we can talk about him. So he got blamed for everything. He really wasn't horrible. He wasn't good. He's kind of like would be a good backup at he's like a good serviceable NFL backup who has a long career.
You know who he is?
Who?
He's the Michigan version of Shea Patterson. I mean, the Tennessee version of Shea Patterson.
I could see that, but I think Shea was a lot better than Jared ever was.
Yeah, but you look at the numbers. I mean, Guarantano had 12 TDs and 3 picks in 2018, 16 TDs and 8 picks in 2019. And you would think that he threw 40 interceptions those 2 years. That's
And
how.
this year too, but he did have 3 pick-sixes this year, I think.
Yeah, this year wasn't a good year.
He
But
saved. Listen, he saved them last year. That 6-game winning streak, that was all him coming in to bail them out in like every game.
and Michigan fans crap on Shea Patterson. And if you look at his numbers at Michigan, they're actually better than Guarantano's. But I'm just saying that everybody likes to blame one guy. This is a team, and I said this. We had a podcast. Was it you or Gorning? I can't remember, but I watched the Florida game, I think it was. And remember, I was looking for signs of life. Was that the one that Harrison Bailey started, the first start?
I think so. Yeah, they were in the game.
I was looking for signs of life and positivity. This team stinks. There's no talent.
Well, and now the question is, does Harrison's even stick around? I mean, he made it pretty. His dad went on Twitter a month ago and said, "We came here to play for Pruitt," Um, and
you know, guys got slower because remember they had the fastest wide receiver class in the country.
When
with Weidman a couple years ago, remember?
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, Weidman who had one catch for 5 yards or something. I mean,
I watched the team speed, and they were absolutely like slow. Like if you would put Rutgers uniforms on them, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, Hyatt was the only one that was. They would lose to Rutgers. It wouldn't even be close. I'd put Rutgers as like a 7-point favorite against this Tennessee team.
Well, it's a good thing they ran Schiano off of Twitter.
Okay, well, we don't got to talk about that. I don't. That was a ridiculous moment in the Twitter college football history.
Well, that's when I first learned that you can't stop social outrage. You can't. And it's fake social outrage, but it's social outrage. You can't stop it. Like it will ruin you and destroy you. So every day, I'm trying to be careful, but there was no stopping that train when it started to roll. And I thought, there's no way they're going to back out on this because of Twitter. And then they do. And I'm like, wow.
Did they end up paying him any money?
I don't know, but he was hired.
They had that memorandum of understanding or whatever, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, geez.
He had a job, and then Twitter took it away.
So one of the other things I wanted to talk about that I'm not sure I've seen your opinion. I know you've probably written about it. Urban Meyer takes the job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. You think he's going to be a failure? Is that right?
I do. Yes. Not a colossal failure. We're not talking like, Steve Spurrier with the Redskins or you can't say Redskins anymore, right? So Steve Spurrier with the Washington football team, and
Nick Saban. Do you count Chip Kelly as a colossal failure?
I kind of do because he went to the playoff. I think he's going to be level of Chip Kelly.
Right. They went to the playoffs, and then half of his team won the Super Bowl like 2 years later or whatever, right?
Right. But he was from what I understand, such an obnoxious human being.
Right. Yeah.
No one could stand playing for him. And I don't think Urban's going to be that obnoxious human being, but I don't think that he's going to be a guy that people buy into. He's not shopping for their groceries now. These aren't kids that he recruited. He's not sending them off to make millions. He's dealing with millionaires. And we know Trevor is not going to be an issue. He's the highest character kid you can find. He's going to be great. There's some talent on that team. Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, Miles Jack,
the running back.
Robinson, the running back. Yeah. But, I think what'll happen is Urban will get him to the playoffs in 3 years, and then he'll have another health issue and he'll be gone. And then I think Trevor is going to win Super Bowls. I just don't think it's going to be under Urban.
Yeah, I mean, but I would consider that a success. If he takes him from 1 win to 8 wins and then he quits, I think that's fine because anyone's going to want to come coach Trevor. Now, the question is who they hire as the GM. I think, that process is ongoing. We're seeing one of the things that makes me so mad about the NFL is like the Chargers hiring the Rams defensive coordinator. Like, what are you doing? Your whole team, your whole focus should be on, we have Justin Herbert, who could be like, an all-time level quarterback or at least top 5 in the NFL, especially based on his rookie season. And you bring in a defensive coach. Why do they do that? Like, hire an offensive mind to continue grooming him. Like instead, you hire some defensive dude, and they're not even who's barely even going to deal with the quarterback. He should be your number one priority going forward.
Yeah, and I don't mind the defensive hires as long as you hire an offensive coordinator and a quarterback whisperer that you're going to hand the reins to and be okay with. But
They should keep
yeah,
Pep Hamilton, in my opinion. I think Pep Hamilton should I think he should be a college head coach. I'm not sure why he fell out of he went from being a head coaching candidate in college to being a position coach in the NFL. Like what happened?
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a lot of guys like that, and I think there's in the NFL. I'm glad Saleh got the Jets job because I think he's a good candidate, and obviously Bieniemy's going to get one of these jobs.
I'm leaning towards your way now, where you said he wasn't going to get one. I think you might be right.
Well, I think he might get one. I mean, obviously they're still waiting because the Chiefs won, but you hear his name less and less and less. But I think somebody out there has to be waiting to hire him, right? I mean, it can't just be this way forever.
I just don't get it. I understand okay, we're going to hire some defensive coaches, but I mean even Dayball from the Bills, who someone should hire him. He came from Nick. He was Nick Saban's offensive coordinator. Remember, not that long ago.
Yeah,
he worked for Belichick. He worked for Saban, and now he's took the horrible Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, the most inaccurate quarterback in the NFL, and has completely turned him around. Like, what else do you have to do?
Yeah, and the Texans, there's talk of hiring Leslie Frazier, which it's the same guys.
Wasn't he? Who did he coach? The Vikings or something?
Vikings, and he was 21-32. They won playoff year. Otherwise, he won 3 games every year, and he's a very good coordinator and assistant head coach. But he's already been there, done that, had his chance. So why give him another one? But yet, it's just the retread league. Like Marvin Lewis has been discussed for jobs. Marvin Lewis did nothing at Cincinnati.
Well, I don't think Marvin Lewis would be a horrible candidate if you were a bottomed out franchise he could get you to respectability. Like you said, though, I'm not hiring him to take me from 8-8 to the Super Bowl. I'm hiring him to take me from 2-14 to 8-8 and stabilize the franchise.
But why not give a shot to Bieniemy when you've been there and seen what Leslie Frazier can do as a head coach, and you've seen what Marvin Lewis can do as a head coach? You haven't seen what this guy can do.
Yeah, the problem is Bieniemy's going to end up getting some horrible job, and he's not going to do well because he's in a horrible situation. And to be honest with you, the Texans, especially if you're now we're going to say NFL podcast all of a sudden, if you're the Texans and the Dolphins tell you, hey, we'll give you Tua for Deshaun Watson, and we'll give you Tua in the number 3 pick, you should say no. Because if the Dolphins are ready to cut bait on Tua, that means you might as well just trade for nothing because he's not going to.
Tua sucks.
Hey, what was his nickname coined by me?
Tua Star. It was Tua Star. Now, in high school, he was not a Tua Star. You have to admit that.
Yes,
right?
I was wrong.
But again, it's
here are the rosters for the Texans and Dolphins.
My wife started talking to me.
But here's my thinking, and again, I'm jaded by the lefty thing because the spin on the ball is weird, and I just something's there. But I'm also jaded on the guys with 18,000 weapons that have great careers that I don't believe have the arm strength, the size, the durability. He's got accuracy. That's about it. And he had Ruggs. He had Devontae Smith. He had Jerry Jeudy. He had Jalen Waddle. He had Najee Harris. Honestly, I'm 6'1", 260 pounds of fat. I could probably have a pretty solid year with those guys throwing the ball.
Well, you couldn't know, but the fact that Mac came in and went to another level tells you all you need to know, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
So I would say absolutely no. I don't want Tua. Nobody wants Tua. Tua was a big mistake already, and we know it. Um, and the Texans should not trade Deshaun Watson. I love Deshaun Watson, and I get his frustration, but you shouldn't be involved in the selection of a coach. You shouldn't be involved in the selection of a general manager.
well, but here's the thing. Then they shouldn't have told him he was going to be. Like that's
right.
the difference. Don't tell him.
They're Tennessee of the NFL.
You and I both know that Deshaun Watson is like,
The nicest human being ever.
right. So the fact that they've managed to piss him off that bad, and I was telling to my brother-in-law, I was like, Deshaun, like the Deshaun Watson I know or knew was so easy to deal with all the time. Like, so the fact that they've managed to piss him off this bad shows you that like they're a disaster. You're right. They are the Tennessee of the NFL. And this is just,
I just had an idea. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Tennessee should hire Bill O'Brien.
I mean, I think that was actually one of the candidates that I heard floated around. Now he's in there. The coach from Coastal Carolina, who evidently is a huge Vols fan. It's so interesting how all these guys were huge Vols fans. Like, oh, Kiffin, his wife was a Vol cheerleader. He loves the Vols. No, he wants to make money. All these dudes, like, it's so hard when you're a fan to put yourself into the mind of non-fans. Like, you don't, even the players, like, oh, his dad played for Tennessee. Why doesn't he want to come there? Because he doesn't care. Because he's a kid who's trying to become a millionaire. Like he's not focused on where. Guess what? My dad was a logger. You don't see me out in the woods cutting down trees. I'm sitting on my butt in a bedroom filming a video with you because I'm too lazy to go work like a real man.
Nobody wants to log. Logging's hard.
Right. So I just think that whole thing of like, this is just such a disaster.
It would be funny though, hiring Bill O'Brien, because that's someone who they gave ultimate power to in Houston, and he absolutely decimated that football program.
But he didn't do bad handling the nightmare at Penn State and kind of like
he did well.
Right. So you need what I think they need is, and I was going to say this when we were talking earlier, I think they need like almost one of these. We need to go back to the rah, almost like Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech, where he's going to embrace the tradition that you've talked about, embrace the former players. We need Peyton. We need Kamara. We need, whoever, even Derek Barnett. Do you see Derek Barnett lives in Nashville? Do you ever see Derek Barnett around the team or anything? I never do.
I'm not sure I understand.
Shut up, watch.
So doesn't understand why Derek Barnett's not showing up to games.
So that's the thing is like you need someone that's going to rally the troops. You don't need old Pruitt. He just the ball coach. Oh shucks. It's like yeah, he's just a ball coach. The fact when he got up there and gave that press conference and said, well, 10 years ago, I was a kindergarten teacher, must be doing something right. No, you're doing something right. Tennessee is not doing something right by hiring a person who was a kindergarten teacher 10 years ago to run their program. Like that's a bad sign. That's not a good sign.
I do have a serious hire for you though, that I think would buy into everything you're saying.
Okay.
That would absolutely, buy into the culture, the fans, the traditions. And that's Gerard Mayo with the Patriots. And I think you could not find a better hire for Tennessee right now. He's in line or being interviewed at least for some NFL head coaching jobs.
I didn't know he wasn't still a player.
No, he's been under Belichick. Their inside linebackers coach, and a guy that's a real sharp, and has played under Belichick, has played and coached and learned under Belichick, and is a former Vol and was a first rounder to come out of there. And all the ties are there. And I remember him as a high school kid, sort of a sawed-off, undersized linebacker who was very, 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 very good. And I think he would be a great hire. And I think that would be the guy that buys in, because I think you're right. I mean, Bill O'Brien's not going to buy in.
No, Bill O'Brien.
From all indications, Bill O'Brien is not a nice person.
I don't know about that. You would know.
Well, no, I kind of do.
Okay. You would know.
But Gerard Mayo is a guy who would bleed orange, So I think that's where I go. That's where I go if I'm Tennessee, and I bring him in. And he's a defensive coach. I get it. You don't want that these days, but he would put a good staff around him, and he would be perfect, absolutely perfect for Tennessee. So if that happens, I am going to be 1,000% Vols are going to be successful. But until they get that rah-rah guy, I just don't know.
Yeah, and I heard Andy Staples say that it's the highest pressure job of higher pressure than the New York Yankees manager, higher pressure than anything. Ooh. To be the Tennessee Vols head coach, because of the way you are just under everything you do is under a microscope. Like, and I might agree with him. Like, it's crazy. And you know what, you and I always talk about like what happened if we get laid off or whatever. The day tomorrow, Jeremy Pruitt's going to wake up and, going to smell some fresh air and be like, thank God I don't have to deal with that anymore. Who knows if he gets his buyout? Who knows if he'll get another job? I mean, someone will hire him as defense. Texas might try to hire him immediately to be the defensive coordinator. He'll be back in Tuscaloosa working for Saban in some capacity, because that's one of his guys,
And I think that's where he can be successful.
Yeah, he's an assistant coach. He's not a head coach.
Right. And he doesn't play well with others.
Right.
And you have to deal with that for his ability to game plan, play call, coach up, and scheme. And he's very good at that as well. But being a head coach, you're a manager. So that's like, for a little while in my rival's career, I was a manager, as you know.
Yeah, believe me, I still have nightmares.
And I'm talent. That's what we call me. I'm talent.
That's what your contract says. Yeah.
You ask talent to become a manager, especially when your manager has sort of a screw loose, and it's a disaster. It's a nightmare. I mean, everybody rebels. Nobody likes you, and that's just what a head coach is. He has to be able to make everybody happy in every way and keep everything fluid. And that's not what Pruitt is. But Gerard Mayo.
Okay, that's your guy. Speaking of which, so I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, however long Cristobal's been the coach at Oregon. It was right after he got the job. I had flown out there for a bachelor party or something. And he was like, "Oh, come by, we'll talk a little bit. I was like, "Oh, good, we can record a podcast, blah, blah." We did record a podcast. But the amount of stuff he had to do, I mean, I was there for probably 3 hours, and it was just like the amount of directions that these coaches get pulled in. He's like, "Oh, some guy's retiring. You got to go in and present him with the jersey. And then this person's doing this. You got to go do this." Like, it is constant, like one thing for another. It's really like being like the president. You got to go sign autographs for this person. This guy's last day, this person's birthday. It's the janitor's whatever. Like, it's 30 years here. I seriously walked all over, rode elevators, and did all this stuff just to get like a 15-minute podcast interview. And that's just one snippet of one day. That none of that encompassed football talk. None of it was watching film.
That's why you have to have an unbelievably excessive amount of energy and passion. And we know he's that guy. I mean, I remember first meeting him at Rutgers, I think it was. And it's just like, what is this guy on?
No, he's insane. Especially he's always, getting on me to lose weight or whatever. He's like, "Oh, come out here.
Oh, is he?
Get you whipped into shape." Well, he loves helping people lose weight. It's like one of his specialties.
He hasn't tried to help me lose weight at all.
Yeah, well, he hasn't seen you in person in a while.
Yeah. Wow. I'm a little insulted, actually. But that is the type of energy, and you have to be an ambassador. You have to be, Slick Rick. And that's why I think back to Urban, he's going to be successful at the college level and not so much at the NFL level. I remember, this is a local thing. Tom O'Brien was the head coach at Boston College for 10 years, and he begrudgingly did everything that you're talking about. This guy's retiring and you got to show up and smile. And he didn't like any of it. And then he sold out and went to NC State and got a lot of money. And he did it all. And I believe I saw the most miserable human being ever, because he didn't want to do any of that. And they were paying him so much at the time that he had to do it. Like at least at BC, he was underpaid. You have to want that. And I don't know if Pruitt wanted that. I don't know if certain guys buy into it. I'm very interested to see about Sark, because Sark is a different Sark than he was at USC. He's very, what's the word?
I don't know. He's definitely different. I mean,
he's very calm. He's very well managed, and I'm impressed by the way he is handling himself compared to the old Sark. Now, I don't know if that's going to be beneficial to Texas or not, but I'm very interested to see, because that Texas job, whoever it was, Andy Staples said that the Tennessee job is that, and I get it. Texas job is the same way. It's really, 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 really hard,
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, some reason, I talked to a couple of people who were like, they think Sark's going to be really successful. And I mean, I don't know if I'm super sold, but I mean, I'm not he's going to be, when Jeremy Pruitt got hired, I knew he was not going to be successful. And I told it to every person I knew. I couldn't say it publicly, because what can you do? You can't come out to a fan base and say, this hire sucks. You guys are going to be terrible.
I did it.
For who? Herm Edwards?
No, I did it for Charlie Strong.
Oh, you hated Charlie Strong? Charlie Strong was just a bad fit. He should have stayed at Louisville.
Yeah,
still
it wasn't Charlie Strong. I mean, he's going to be on the Jags staff apparently, and he's a good coach and all that. But it was just such a bad fit. It was like, let's pick the worst fit for Charlie Strong at a high level job. Oh, there it is, Texas. And I said it, and this is the problem. You say it, people hate you. They want you dead. Then you're right, and they want you dead even more. They want you double dead.
Right.
Like, I'm right. You guys should hate this guy. He just took money from you and dragged your program down for 3 years. No, you hate us. You suck. That's why you hated Charlie. And I'm like, you're defending Charlie now after bashing him for 3 straight years. It's a weird dynamic. So you're right. You have to be careful. But I like the Sark hire. I do. I like it more and more every day.
All right. Well, this turned into a all Vols podcast special. I did want to do, one of this. We haven't done some of our segments in a long time, just because we've been scrambling all over. But
you got a 5-star for me in the NFL?
I do have I have a few forgotten 5 stars of the week. So tight end edition. So do you know which team Ricky Seals-Jones plays for?
Oh my God. First of all, he didn't stay a 5-star. He was
he didn't finish his one?
I don't believe so.
Let me look him. I'll look him up right now.
Ricky Seals-Jones.
Don't Google him, because you're going to find out who he plays for. He was an athlete in the class of 2000. He did finish at number 40 overall, so we dropped him.
Yeah. I have no idea. No clue.
He is on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Doing what?
Playing. He was in the game yesterday.
He put the jacket on Kelsey?
No, he plays. Let me see his stats this season.
You got to be third string, though, right?
I don't. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he's on the team. His stats this season. I hate the NFL website, by the way. He did not catch a pass this year.
He puts the jacket on Kelsey when he's cold.
He was playing for the Cardinals a couple of years ago. He has 60 career catches for 773 yards and 8 touchdowns.
He is their 4th string tight end.
Right, but
Kelsey, Nick Kelzer, Deion Yelder, and then Ricky Seals-Jones. So good for him. He was always a nice kid, right?
Right. So he was a quarterback, wasn't he? That we knew was going to play receiver. Is that right?
I don't remember him being a quarterback.
We ranked him as an athlete, so
I don't remember him being a quarterback. I remember his dad. Remember his dad?
I don't remember his dad actually.
Oh God, his dad showed up at everything. He was the nicest guy ever. Talk your ear off. And Ricky was one of our first, 5-star challenge guys way back in the day. I think he was Chicago?
No, I think he was Atlanta.
Was he Atlanta? He was one of the OGs. But yeah, I would have never known that in a million years. But I love the guys that used to be 5s and dropped to 4. Those are fun. There's one.
Okay, so there's one for you. He's still in the NFL. He could get a Super Bowl ring this year. And he was a he played wide. Didn't he tear his ACL like late in his high school career or something?
Oh,
maybe early in college. Well, I'm seeing pictures.
That was back when we had to know everything about every kid because of our former boss.
Right.
And I've purged it out of my head.
Yeah, the nation's #1 wide receiver, according to Rivals. He was committed to Texas too, which I don't remember.
I don't remember that either, but I do remember he was a 5 and dropped to 4.
Okay, so the other one I have was another 5-star tight end, Isaac Nada.
He's not playing. He was with the Lions the last time I heard.
He's on a team that's still alive in the playoffs. Can you guess which team it is?
I'm going to guess Tampa Bay.
No, it's the Green Bay Packers.
Really?
And I didn't even know this until yesterday when I was going, because, this is the time where I start to look to make sure we're going to have multiple 5-stars in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Packers have Rashawn Gary, who would be good for us, #1 overall player. It'd be nice to have him.
Playing well too.
Super Bowl at a position that we didn't even come close to ranking him.
A hybrid. He's playing a linebacker hybrid.
So Nada has been on the Lions for his first few years of his career. He got cut on December 5th. And a week later, he got signed to the practice squad for the Packers. So he's yet to make an appearance. 3 career catches for 16 yards.
I can't believe he's still in the NFL.
Let me tell you something. He was such a good defensive lineman. I sort of wonder if he could still switch positions and play defensive line better than he is at tight end. I mean, you talk about a guy whose career just went off the rails because he, in my opinion, went to the wrong place.
He's also one of those guys throughout the process that was in shape, fat, in shape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like Raekwon. Where's Raekwon now? He used to be with the Dolphins. He's with someone else.
On the Raiders.
Is he? Okay. So there's a few of those guys that are, funny to remember. Not that, we're 2 fat loads talking about stuff, but, it's funny. You see them one year and they're like, oh, buff. And then you see them and you're like, whoa, what happened to you? And then you see them get back in shape and then you buy in and then they don't do well. And
we got some guys like that. We got some guys like that in this class that we
do. I was just thinking that, we do have some guys like that. And Raekwon had a good career too, but I thought you were going to throw out a Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah, he is kicking around. He was a 5-star.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, the other thing I thought you were going to do is, which would be too easy, a complete layup, was Chad Henne.
No, I wasn't going to go with them. I looked at some of those, but I knew you would know those. But we're loaded. I'm telling you, we could have a double-digit 5-star Super Bowl if these things line up right.
I think Chad Henne was 2005.
Yeah, I saw people, starting to take credit for it.
2004. That is unbelievable.
No, running pretty crazy, wasn't it?
Gosh, the kid. To still be in the NFL and to come into that situation and do what he did is just really, really amazing. And people say, oh, he's a bust. It's okay at Michigan. He was just an average NFL guy. Yeah, but he still collected paychecks. He just saved the Chiefs season. So that's a
13 overall player. Let's see who we ranked ahead of him at his position. Because he was the number
Anthony Morelli, if I remember.
Yes.
And Rhett Bomar, who got a job selling cars or something from Oklahoma. It was a no-show job and got booted.
Didn't he make it to the NFL though or something?
Yeah, with the Giants as like a second string for a little while.
Boy, what a legend.
Morelli's a quarterback coach now, obviously, as you know.
Yeah, and Xavier Lee was also in there.
And Xavier Lee was pretty much a wide receiver playing quarterback.
Boy, what a year for quarterback. You had two. How many 5-stars did we have? Holy cow. We had Tuiasa Sopo.
He's a baseball player playing football.
Yeah, not the good Tuiasa Sopo either.
Nope.
And then I think that's it on the.
Yeah. Like, Robbie Reed was close.
Boy, and we couldn't make Marshawn Lynch a 5-star, but we had Tuiasa Sopo, huh?
I'm gonna Marshawn Lynch. That was an interesting one because it was Adrian Peterson and then nobody else that whole year.
Right. Calvin Johnson was in that. See, that's when you get killed with some of these guys who just missed, Calvin Johnson, Marshawn Lynch, who were, probably both Hall of Famers, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. Both Hall of Famers. And then that class itself in 2004, I mean, Peterson was the focus at running back. So you drop down and Marshawn was the second running back in that class, but he was just outside of 5. He was 28th in the country. And again, that's a low number of 5-stars. I mean, that year we had 25 5-stars. And right. I remember, the 25th 5-star, of course, is Brian Toll from Jersey, which I got yelled at about. And he didn't, he got injured. He was the Big East Rookie of the Year at BC one year and then got injured next couple of years. But we cut it off. I mean, we had all these guys and it's just like, I'll be blunt. We're done.
We had Glenn Dorsey floating around here up and down.
Marcus Freeman was in that class, if you want to feel really old.
Yeah. Well, I don't, you guys are obsessed with him. I just I don't remember him. So it was definitely.
It was so good. Well, I remember that Army Bowl because they went down there and they had a shortage of linebackers. So they put Toll at running back and he ran for 3 touchdowns. And begrudgingly, a certain person who was on our staff at the time said, okay, he could be a 5-star. And he played running back at BC and stuff like that. But Marcus Freeman was on that 5-star, bubble and probably should have been. He was really good. Calvin Johnson, as you mentioned, was there too. So I don't know why we had 25 that year.
Well, weird. That was before you were in charge.
Yeah, that's when I was just a voice, like a chimer inner.
Yeah, and were you like me who argue? I'm the only one who argues with you these days on our calls.
There wasn't really a lot of arguing. There was a lot of swearing, and there were people in the meetings that shouldn't have been in the meetings that had no business being in the meetings. It was very confusing. These were people who weren't even analysts. Okay, let's just bring him in, and I'm like, what? But those were the early days. But that was the year, I believe, that I got on television, and then all of a sudden I became the apple of a certain someone's eye, and that's when I was a star. And then 3 years later, when I was kicked off television because ESPN didn't buy Rivals, then I became a turd again.
Well, you were on television. You were on NBC then for quite a while.
Yeah, but that was once a year. I mean, I was on ESPN 3-4 times a week. I mean, I lived there. I lived 10 minutes away. It was awesome. I'll be blunt, Mike. You're the best. We love you. And then you get off and you're like, I'll be blunt. You suck. It's great. Yeah. And everybody knows what I'm talking about internally. But
right. This is real inside baseball. I don't know. I don't even know who you're talking about, but that 2B Blunt reference is definitely going to be picked up by somebody. Speaking of which, boy, your friend at Freezing Cold Takes could have a field day with some certain people and their tweets on Jeremy Pruitt. We might have to make him aware of some of those, huh?
You know what? I went back and forth on Jeremy Pruitt.
But I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a prominent person who used to.
Oh, you're talking about my man Clay?
No, I'm talking about someone who used to be your boss at Rivals a long time ago.
Oh, yes. That could be, yes. Well, I hit him up the other day and I said, hey man, how about a positive one? Because I know there was a tweet out there where I said Diggs hadn't been selected in the 3rd round and someone's going to get a steal and he's going to be motivated and ticked off. He's like, no, so many other people felt that way. And I'm like, no, they didn't. He played at Maryland. No one cared. No one even knew. So he wouldn't give me the positive one, but yet he will roll out the, who's the crappy quarterback at Florida that I said was Russell Wilson? Treon.
Yeah, Treon.
He rolls out Treon traditionally on signing day, and then obviously Mahomes when he wins the Super Bowl, that one will go up.
Yeah, this is I'm looking at some tweets about Jeremy Pruitt might be the best recruiter in the country. Jeremy Pruitt, the success of Kirby Smart made Jeremy Pruitt more coveted. He's a 10 out of 10 recruiter. He's not a 10 out of 10 recruiter. I'm sorry.
No, and you got to remember that he also was at Alabama for a little while, and that particular anybody who was at Alabama was a god.
Let me tell you something. Being at Alabama is like being an offensive lineman on the undefeated football team in high school, and you could get any chick you want because you're undefeated and you played with Trevor Lawrence or whatever. And then you go to college and you're at a D2 school and you're like, hey, I'm on the football team. And the girls are like, so who cares, you fat turd? Like, get away from me.
Speaking of not fat, but the whole Mac Jones dad bod thing, he's done well for himself in the girlfriend department.
Okay. All right. I talked to Mac yesterday, believe it or not.
He doesn't follow me anymore.
We were talking about he's down in Mobile training. Speaking of which, down in Mobile, our boy David Morris from QB Country's got Davis Mills down there. He's got Mac down there. He's got a couple of big names. So they've been trying to get
me. Are you going? Are you going too?
Well, that's what I was talking to Mac about. Am I going to go down? I was originally supposed to go to the Senior Bowl. I don't know if it's going to happen. I might go for one day, or I might go down on the weekend and just go hang out with David and see if I could see some of the quarterbacks throwing it around and stuff. So I don't know. But when I talked to Mac about it, I said that one picture that everyone shows is from that was before he was the starter, the dad bod picture. And people don't realize he wears a rib protector in games. So people think Mac is like some fat turd, and it's like,
well, they think he's huge. My buddy, that's all he said. He's not a college football fan, but he was over watching the Bama Ohio State game, and he's like, Justin Fields is small. I go, no, he's not small. I go, he's about 6'2.5". He's probably 6'3". Like 225. He's like, really? He goes, Mac Jones is huge. I go, he's got more padding on than you remember that Charmin commercial where you put they stuff the toilet paper into their little onesies or whatever. I go, he's got more pads on than anybody on earth. He's not that huge. He's bigger than he was, but he's not a massive quarterback. But
I asked Mac what he was going to run, and he said he was running 4.7 during the summer. So when he was in his best shape.
0% chance.
What do you think? So Herbert, who is pretty fast, ran like a 4.69 last year.
Oh, Mac's going to run a 4.9.
Yeah. Which I told him, I said, I think if you get under 5, you're fine.
Yeah. 4.7. No. I have a bet with Lackford about Rondell Moore's 40 time.
Oh yeah. What is Rondell going to run? A 4.1 or something?
I got to look it up, but he bought into the hype of Rondell, and I'm like,
oh no, he made the hype. He is the hype. Lackford has been bugging me about Rondell Moore for 5 years.
Well, and here's the thing: the combine is going to be canceled, right?
Yes.
So they're going to run pro days,
and everybody knows at pro days.
Everybody knows that they drop you down the chute 38 yards at a pro day, and you run a 4.1. Right. So that's not fair. Like, remember you probably don't remember this, but a few years, like maybe 15 years ago, Virginia Tech used to come out with these 40 times at their pro days, and D'Angelo Hall ran like a 4.12 or something. Like every 40 time was just completely fabricated and a joke. And now all pro days are like that.
Hey, listen, I got news for you. D'Angelo Hall's about to be back in your life, Mike, because his son is coming up. And he bugs me about him all the time. So.
You can bug me. I like D'Angelo. He's a little bit mouthy, but that's all right.
Well, no, I actually like him, but I told him we'd take, because his son was, I think he's probably just getting to high school now. And I told him, hey, we'll invite, we'll have him out to an event, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, not a lot of follow through there. But Atlanta's.
Well, now that the Saints have lost, now Chauncey Gardner is going to be all over me about a 7-on-7 team.
You mean CD Deuce, I believe was his changed his name to.
Who follows, unfollows, tells me to shut up, then ask for help, and it's just.
I look forward to seeing Chauncey. I can't wait to see Chauncey next time I see him. I might punch him just for just, just for fun. I want to be like an NFL player and punch Chauncey in the face.
Remember how many lies Chauncey had about camps?
Yeah, I remember because I was the point person on Chauncey, but I also remember Chauncey famously mocking a former Rivals employee for crying. So all time.
Well, that was deserved, and you probably made that former Rivals employee cry.
No, it was a coach who made him cry. And Chauncey saw him crying and it came up to me and said, "Hey, Woody, your boy's crying." And started hitting me and laughing and mocking the person right in front of their face.
Speaking of that person, I told you about my management years, those formative, 3 years I was a manager. That particular person called me up and I was managing them and trying to train them while Woody was trying to destroy his life. And
wrong. It was the other way around.
This is how the conversation starts. He goes, "I've been talking to my wife and we both agree that you're a pretty horrible manager."
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm like, that's how you start a conversation?
That was when you finally started to turn on him, though, because I had been trying to tell you guys he was a little unstable. But everyone thinks I hate. Oh, Woody, you hate everyone.
Well, and listen. The requirement at the time was a 4-year degree at Yahoo. Like, try to find somebody in our industry with a 4-year degree.
That's embarrassing. I don't even want to. The fact that we had to pass over several candidates because they didn't graduate college,
we had to. I had to. I said, "How about this kid?" Nope.
I remember. Well, and I tried to talk one of my friends into taking the job, and now he was like, "No, I don't want to cover recruiting. I'm trying to do." And he had a background. He liked recruiting. And now he's like working for some Miami Hurricanes recruiting blog 10 years later. I'm like, dude, you could have been here the whole time. What are you doing? But
I think I don't know. I don't know who got the better of that, though.
Yeah, well, we're not friends anymore, so.
That's shocking. Really surprising, you having a falling out with somebody. All right, I got to pee. Can we wrap this up?
Yeah, that's it for this week. I'm going to start doing some more podcasts with other guests besides you later in the week once I get settled in. Hopefully I get to go to the Senior Bowl. But other than that, Mike and I are going to be having constant Vols updates all week. So be sure to check out the Rivals YouTube channel and Rivals Twitter. So, all right, Mike.
All right, see you.
Bye.